I greet you in peace and love. Us Pleiadians have practically zero laws. We do have judges. However, our judges moderate disputes and deliver consequences based not on a law book, but rather on their own wisdom, on what their soul says, and on guidance from higher consciousness beings. Normal citizens are allowed to look over the shoulder of a judge, and if people don't think that a judge delivers good judgments, then that judge is replaced. If a society has access to high consciousness judges, then I think our system is substantially better than your system of having judges who are there to enforce a written down law book. We are currently undergoing expansive cellular upgrades and possibly experiencing many ascension symptoms at this time. The ascending on Earth are receiving unification codes, moving into higher conscious timeline shifts and expanding in activations of the feminine and masculine templates. This process involves purging old implants of past Atlantean timelines. Our light bodies are being infused. Ear pitch frequencies are shifting into much higher vibrational frequencies. A time to observe without emotional attachment, anchoring into the ascension truth that is now taking over this planet. Releasing all with love, higher understanding, truthful awareness and compassion. However, if a society does not yet have access to these high consciousness judges, then you do need a law book. A low consciousness judge who just rules as he or she wishes, unbound by a law book, obviously can lead to horrible outcomes. Right now, you're in an uncomfortable grey zone where enforcing a book of laws doesn't quite work. However, you also don't quite have high consciousness judges yet. Right now, it may be too early to abolish nearly all laws. Still, the consciousness on your world is rising rapidly, and so you may relatively soon have those high consciousness judges. The rule of law was a great step forward at a lower level of consciousness. Still, let's examine the downsides of the rule of law. One problem with laws is that they make some things legal that clearly shouldn't be allowed. Think about companies destroying nature, companies poisoning the citizenry, companies bribing their oversight regulatory capture. Companies writing their own laws, companies creating quasi-monopolies, companies and billionaires avoiding taxes, billionaires bribing politicians, etc. Another problem with laws is that there are cases where they criminalize good things. These upgrades are necessary to physically absorb the energies of the new Earth and to activate the body's cellular and molecular structure. The physical body is evolving from carbon-based 3D to 5D crystalline-based in order to connect and align with self's higher consciousness. For many, it may be a new experience to embody and handle expanding light. This intense metamorphosis process will be physically and emotionally taxing and challenging at times. Rest and hydration are important during this process. The ascending are encouraged to work consciously with self's upgrading cells to expand in a state of conscious being. Awakened individuals are ascension leaders here on ascending Earth, bridging the conscious gap between the third and fifth dimensions, honoring this task at hand. The self possesses a specific collective skill set, acquiring vast knowledge through each life expression. In this specific life, it was decided to clear the old energy of karma that was inherited from before this birth incarnation. Your presence here is an opportunity for ascension, self-development, evolution, and conscious maturity. Utilizing this knowledge to gain a deeper understanding of the self beyond the conditioned human experience and physical form. For example, George Washington was literally a traitor according to the law. And while it's not the primary reason, one factor why your grey hats are taking so long to take action is that they're mostly trying to follow the law. So the law is tying the hands of the grey hats to an extent and is delaying their actions. While the law isn't hindering the dark controllers at all, because at critical times they simply don't follow it. So laws can hinder good people in their efforts to stop bad people. You could argue, well, laws stop bad people too, but a judge without a law book can just as easily hold a criminal accountable as a judge with a law book can. Sure, a law book can prevent a judge from becoming tyrannical or arbitrary, but recall that a requirement for our system is that we have high consciousness judges. Otherwise, you do indeed need laws. Laws in general hinder good people who obey them, but not bad people who don't. And yet, sure, technically the solution to that is arrest lawbreakers. But that's much easier said than done, as you are seeing on your world. Even obvious crimes go unpunished, and there are also a whole lot of crimes that you never hear about that also go unpunished. While the steps taken may differ from those taken by others, the overarching path remains the same. Mastery is a big part of Self's divine plan. Everything you have been working towards is now on its way to you. Remaining aligned with strengthened faith, trust, and gratitude. During times of extreme transition, increasing faith and trust allows for unexpected universal support that will always provide. Life as we know it will undergo massive transformations. The self's experiences, themes, and challenges have higher purpose and are never purposeless. No one else can fulfill and overcome the life you have incarnated into but you. It's always wise to refrain from comparing yourself to others, especially by those driven by the ego self. The intention set by your higher self and ascension team for this life holds intense potency and power. It is capable of bringing about significant and profound personal and global changes. Your existence is integral, honored, and highly valuable. Ascending souls are striving for internal peace and trusting fully in the journey ahead, understanding that everything is unfolding perfectly in its own time. While we may not have all the answers from what was left behind, during ascension it is natural at different times to feel lost and confused or at a crossroad. This is part of the unbecoming of the false self. Emptying the cluttered mind leaves you temporarily at a loss. Expanding in this next chapter, experiencing the necessary conclusions of releasing what no longer serves a higher purpose. Another downside of laws is that there are lots of things that are destructive or immoral, but they're technically legal, so a judge under a system of laws can't do anything about them. Suppose a lobbying organization gives money to a politician, and later that politician just happens to support a law that this lobbying organization likes. Well, without a law book, a judge could look into this and perhaps make these people face consequences. But because law books exist, judges can't do anything about this because this is technically legal. So because laws exist, bribery is effectively legal and judges can't do anything about it so long as it's done in a slightly indirect way. Whereas if laws didn't exist, judges could just rule based on their own judgment and do something about this situation where people are clearly getting bribed, but legally speaking they aren't. In other words, law books tie the hands of judges. It may be good to tie the hands of the judges in a low consciousness society, but it's not good to do so in a high consciousness society.